Live from our studios here at Kokomlemle in the crowd. Good morning. Welcome to Joy News Desk. My name is Kenneth Jesse. This morning, former President John Kufuor criticizes the Akufo-Addo administration, saying several major policy decisions contributed significantly to the NPP's defeat in the 2024 elections. ECOWAS directs immediate deployment of its standby force to the Republic of Benin after a failed coup on Sunday. We've got more as the regional force shall be made up of troops from Ghana and other West African countries. And this morning, there's growing frustration in Mankasim over Parliament's delay in ratifying the Lithium lease as residents threaten massive demonstrations.
So many agitations which could have led to demonstrations and anarchies. And as I sit here, I tried my possible best as to avert most of them.
Authorities struggle to hold tensions down. More in our series Hope and Pause, the Lithium Promise. We have business details also up next. Stay tuned. Camp of former President John Kufuor, who has criticized the erstwhile Akufo-Addo administration, stating that several major policy decisions contributed significantly to the New Patriotic Party's defeat in the 2024 elections. Speaking on the Delay Show, he said he never understood the rationale behind the Domestic Debt Exchange Program, National Cathedral Project, and Power Distribution Services deal. He revealed he was not consulted on any of these decisions.
As a party, Ibuya, wow, NPP party, President Kufuor NPP.
Nishasi no nanka kofine.
Okay.
There have been Mr. COVID. That there be whom be a buyer no kahuna afei. Bahono, akasa Kufuor manage COVID no ye.
Okay.
Near me near the but no I'm actually no. And near man be kasamti ase anameboa.
To say the
So it is a bond market issues nearby. It is a cathedral. So near it's a kukuru no near the no nafi antimianye.
Now what peneso say yensi cathedral?
They consult me.
Okay, but the
cabinet no answer won't say bibisa koso.
But what you say be see cathedral? Now when say ade here na. Me
pacho. Bon UTS and the music na me dem ka say be privately no mo dey.
Okay.
And bomb to akofa as a government and as there. But so to me see via but we as a public resources no mo dey.
Okay.
And kobubu banglos as judges near the team. But we as no adians near intimacy.
And aden bio.
And bibi sa PDS bi so akoba no so man ye.
Okay.
Until I bebre, but Mr. Nakame Sabio Marita, my Kokramity, Nameshe. Until Sir Nadia Bakuswa, say, Osha say 2016 landslide near the winning election, nearby power. Now 2020 election, not tensions in Yamabiaba, and a fee, a hang parliament here. NDC battery, it took just one vote, one seat in parliament to distinguish president only a majority, but now a reduced majority. Then 4 years later, last year, anyway, not just a Ghana electorate, you cannot take
them for granted.
It for granted.
That was former President John Kufuor during his interview with Delay on the Delay Show. Let's delve more into this and bring in Dr. Kwesi Amwako or Amache Boateng, who is a political scientist at the Kwame Nkrumah University of Science and Technology. Grateful for your time this morning. If you hear a former president who ruled the country for 8 years, talk about this concerning a party that brought him to power. How does that make you feel? What's your reaction to this?
Thanks for having me, and good morning to your viewers. Actually, it becomes a significant development, given the fact that in most cases, former presidents stay away from public criticism of their own party. But then when it becomes absolutely necessary, when they think that coming public with their position will help the party address that particular problem, a challenge, to move forward, then they do so. From time to time in democratic politics, you have this thing developing. When former presidents think that something is happening, which is such that if they don't come out, the party will eventually lose face completely. They are forced to come out. And so I think President Kufuor is doing what he's doing because, as it is, this one, the information is already out, and he can't run away from it. Of course, his own personal concerns are also captured.
This is not the first time he's publicly criticized his party, and with him being a former president, as I've mentioned earlier, and he mentioning that he was not consulted on major decisions that were taken by the previous administration, including the DDEP and others. Do you think that this goes to show that there's more rifts in the NPP than we assume?
I wouldn't necessarily call it a rift because, generally speaking, former presidents are not necessarily made to influence policy so much, because any individual who represents the party comes out their own package. Of course, as they move on, as they implement the policy, they might want to engage, some of the party gurus, including former presidents, but not necessarily to get them to influence the policies if the government of the day believe that they are doing the right thing. To me, that's not necessarily a rift per se. It's a normal thing, that happens. You have always got differences. Politics, operates on that. You don't necessarily have consensus or a general understanding of a policy direction in the parties. You always have people who want to look at some of these issues from a different perspective.
Do you think he should have been consulted on these issues, that these major policy decisions that were taken in the previous administration?
It's an interesting thing. If you take the PDS, you realize that it was a major issue that people in Nanado's government were heavily interested in. They were definitely not going to talk to anybody about it, because the way the whole thing came out, it was not sort of a put together with the major interest of Ghana at stake. It was a self-serving project, so obviously they were not going to consult it. Do I think that he should have been consulted? I think he could have been briefed and not necessarily consulted for the formulation of any major policy or so. He could have been briefed and then possibly got his position on execution of the program, the governance of it, and possibly the potential sort of fallouts if there should be some, given his experience. But consulting him for policy formulation, I don't think so.
He's one of two former living presidents of this country. Moving forward, are there any lessons that you think future administrations could draw from this in consultation with people who have ruled this country before? Is that even necessary? Generally,
you might want to brief them about what is going on. And through that, you get the opportunity to listen to them, what they have to say about whatever policy that is being formulated and also later to get implemented. So when you brief them about what is going on, I think that is fair. I don't think there are policy gurus, individuals that you want to go to, concerning general policy formulation. They have insight into governance and potential fallouts, but I don't think they are policy gurus. So going forward, they could be briefed and not necessarily consulted for policy direction.
And Dr. Amache, exactly a year ago today, former Vice President Mahmoud Bawumia called now President John Mahama to concede defeat and also publicly conceded defeat that he had lost the elections 1 year after the elections last year. What has changed?
A lot has changed. The economy is doing very well.
Is it?
Generally, yes. Generally, yes. if you look at the basic indicators, yes, the economy is doing well, inflation, the exchange rate, they are all doing well, but we got to consider that, you don't get so much money in the system, but that is also due to the fiscal discipline that the government is some sort of demonstrating. There's a challenge with the private sector. It's not really, working so well as to create openings, job opportunities, and government too so far is having to rely on the traditional, avenues for job creation. One of them being what recently occurred, and we had this unfortunate development, recruitment into the public service generally. But then I think that government big push has the potential to inject money into the system, and it might help to expand the economy. But generally, the economy is doing well. The fiscal discipline and inflation don't just occur. Someone has to work with them. And it is also a policy direction. So yes, generally the economy is doing well. The economy had gotten completely out of hand. The foundations will have to be put in place for a takeoff. And that is what is happening now.
Dr. Amache Boateng, glad you could join us this morning. He's a political scientist with the Kwame Nkrumah University of Science and Technology. And in other stories this morning, the Economic Community of West African States, ECOWAS, has deployed its standby force to the Republic of Benin with immediate effect. Now, ECOWAS says the regional force shall be made up of troops from Nigeria, the Republic of Sierra Leone, Cote d'Ivoire, and of course, Ghana. On Sunday, soldiers in Benin appeared on television to announce that they had removed President Patrice Talon from power. The country's interior ministry shortly announced that the coup did not succeed. So let's get more on this and speak to Mukhtar Mumuni. Mukhtar, who is a security analyst. Glad you could join us this morning. Are you surprised with the response of ECOWAS? That was quite swift, would you say? Kindly unmute your microphone so we can hear you. Hello, Mukhtar. We're trying to get connection to Mukhtar Mumuni. Mukhtar, who is a security analyst there. We're discussing the attempted coup that happened in neighboring Benin. And I understand we have him back on the line. If you can kindly unmute your microphone for me, I'll be glad. Mukhtar, can you hear me now?
Hello, I can hear you clearly.
Right. Now, ECOWAS has been very swift with this attempted coup. We heard of Nigeria deploying soldiers to the place to monitor the airspace of Benin. Now we understand that even Ghana is also supporting to ensure that this coup, which foiled, does not succeed or anything like that ever happens again. What do you make of the attempted coup that took place in Benin yesterday?
Well, in the estimation of many watchers and analysts within the space, the coup or attempted coup situation in Benin comes as quite a surprise to many people. Many did not see this coming, because if you consider the various variables in terms of the vulnerabilities for coups, of course, no nation is immune to coup in this particular space. But Benin came to many as a surprise. The last incident of a successful coup was in about 1972. Throughout this period, we haven't seen the conditions that create the environment for coups or vulnerabilities for coups in a way that we see in many of the countries that have experienced coups in recent times. Many of these countries that have had coups appear to be plagued by serious situations of underdevelopment and prolonged pervasive situations of insecurity. They all run very low in the Human Development Index. And so this is not surprising at all in the case of these other countries in the last 4 coup situations. So Benin comes to many as a surprise. In fact, in very recent times, I have frequented Benin, and in particular, Cotonou. And anyone who has been to Benin in the last couple of years, and the last 6 years in particular, would be very, very impressive and have very commendable accounts in terms of the progress the country has made in terms of development. But a striking feature for many has been the issue of repressive government, actions. We, pick information relating to many who have been in prison or in jail because of criticisms of the government. So those situations exist in that space. If you look at the profile of Benin, it's a very youthful population.
Right.
Nothing extraordinary from the other countries. Over 65% of the entire population being youthful. And if you notice the wave of, the things that look attractive in this decade, young people appear to have developed some goodwill for coup situations. And of course, we all know the context in which we're dealing with this. And so those are the things that appear to resonate with what has happened in Benin. Other than that, is a huge surprise to many.
Let's talk about the immediate response from ECOWAS, beginning with neighboring Nigeria. We understand that they were monitoring the airspace of Benin yesterday. And of course, the president of Nigeria, Bola Tinubu, tweeted that they tried to protect democracy in Benin. But not long ago, Benin changed their constitution to increase the years that a president can rule from 5 to 7 years. We never heard a word from ECOWAS. We never heard anything from ECOWAS. And then an attempted coup comes and ECOWAS reacts proactively. Do you think that ECOWAS is very lackadaisical when it comes to what people would term as, trying to hold on to power for so many years through flawed democracies? They are very silent on that, but they are really quick to act when it comes to coups or attempted coups.
Well, what we're seeing in Benin is a very, very interesting development in many parts. And so in one breath, we are seeing ECOWAS in concert with Nigeria stepping in a very timely manner to prevent a potentially perilous situation, not only in terms of fiscal security, but in terms of, undermining capacity for democracy within West Africa. We are significantly challenged now when it comes to the sustainability of democracy. So any other additional country that goes through the path of military rule or coup situation, it would be a huge, huge undermining, situation. So ECOWAS's intervention together with Nigeria in the lead role is very, very commendable. In fact, this is the kind of intervention or an approach, a mechanism that we envisioned or expected when it came to the talk about a standby force for ECOWAS and intervening in situations like this. Like we saw in the last case, success in the case of Gambia. And so we expected to see this kind of mechanism in a very proactive way to save the situation when something like that happens. But at the same time, we're seeing ECOWAS repeat certain things that clearly undermines its capacity as a regional force in charge of security. The capacity to be proactive in addressing the foundations and underpinnings of coups is clearly absent. We saw what you just analyzed in terms of the changing of the constitution from 5 years to 7 years. That's a constitutional coup, and ECOWAS appears to be silent on those. We've seen situations similar, to this in the case of Togo. We've seen situations like that in the case of Cote d'Ivoire. And ECOWAS has not been present in terms of addressing them. So I think that ECOWAS, clearly needs to re-engineer an approach that shows that they are capable and that they are fully in charge of regional security and stability in West Africa.
Mukhtari, just from 2020 till 2025, we've seen more than half a dozen of successful coups in West Africa alone. How volatile is the region to coup?
Well, this is not new to anyone. This is not a surprise to anyone who has been working in this space. The entire West Africa is under siege. Democracy is under siege. And it's clearly a manifestation of, the frustrations of young people, the anguish of the citizens who have lost, faith in the capacity of their government to provide what I've been calling the entitlements of citizenship. the issues of youth unemployment, issues of services, social services, and provision of infrastructure and mechanisms that allow young people to succeed in terms of their ambitions or aspirations. These things are lacking and they continue to be vulnerable within this space. You notice, young people today are not young people of yesterday. The young people are not only desperate, but are more ambitious than before. They are ambitious, they are desperate, and they are not patient. They're looking for things that are, that exist elsewhere for young people. Technology has allowed young people in the coast of West Africa to aspire for same things in London, in Paris, in New York, because technology and internet allows them to see what young people elsewhere are enjoying. And yet, our governments are not structured to provide a foundation that allows them to succeed. So our governments need to re-engineer. They need to summon a new approach to leadership to ensure we build that future that young people desire within West Africa.
And finally, Muktari, we're seeing a joint, a unison, a united ECOWAS trying to help the situation in Benin. Do you think they're doing that? The countries that are doing that, including Ghana, are scared that because of how volatile the region have been, if they do not prevent what is happening in Benin from being successful, it could spread to their countries? Could that be the reason why they're so united in ensuring that this coup does not succeed?
I've been very impressed by the swift response of ECOWAS together with the partners within West Africa in this situation. And I think that we need to consolidate that kind of response mechanism into a system that, exists for all situations of instability or coup situations in West Africa.
Okay.
Of course, they are significantly informed by the imminent threat that it poses to their various countries if that coup stays or stands. And so clearly it's a product of the the potential threat that it exposes them to. And the fact that if we have that situation stand, it would mean that over 40% of that space of West Africa is in the hands of military-style leadership.
Right.
That should be a huge worry for all of us. And I think that ECOWAS on this occasion must be very, commended for what they have done.
Mutari Mumuni Mukhtar, thank you very much. He's a security analyst joining us this morning on the situation in Benin. And let's bring you more stories this morning because tensions are rising in Mankasim as residents accuse Parliament of dragging its feet on the Ewoya Lithium project. The residents have threatened to protest if the delay continues. Traditional leaders are struggling to hold tensions down, appealing to President Mahama to fulfill his campaign promise and ensure the lease is ratified. Emmanuel Jivenu has more in today's episode of Hope on Pause, the Lithium Promise.
The freeze on all developments remains in force within the Mankasim Ewoya enclave. Residents are still waiting for Parliament to ratify the Ewoya lithium mining lease. The delay leaves families unsure of what comes next, and many are turning the frustration towards traditional leaders who asked them to cooperate 2 years ago. The chief linguist for the Mankasim traditional area, Kwame Isel, says he supports the project, but the slow parliamentary process now places all the pressure on traditional authorities.
Ano amani nyantu wasa woku yan wa ba sisi ya mi aso adan me ya adwuma me ya hwe na ada ya sister rara no sunsuade on pufi nde se ya ko se ya reba ate adwonwe na ade.
Young men who should be farming are now tired of waiting, and some are openly planning protests because they believe traditional leaders are hiding information. The chiefs are constantly appealing for restraint, but these conversations are becoming more difficult.
and mo to moya one sign I was why I should already on ye not that I myself go from one message yada cop. There's a young man and cry I able to take cocoa. That I chaban or said on by Rodan baby hard. Then you had the baby high. I will brag a young mogo. Make it a mo. You better side of my moe by Yada. Shall brag him at dry. I want no beer. Get the beer boga cost walk away. Now, since I said, now, yes, I want to unquote, you can see the baby in that. You want one share baby. To my say, I'll be a pan at the
Paramount Chief of the Nkusukum traditional area, Nana Okesi Esando IX, says he is now managing rising agitations almost every week and has had to step in several times to stop residents from demonstrating because they fear losing their farmlands and homes without compensation.
I'm not in the group.
You're the broke, and I'm a bit Gupano. Osana has maybe what was I pay? Yeah, by into Bessie's message, I paradigm, I pass a man yet. And I ever season, a man, and says a man yet. A man by the pay, by into Bessie's.
See, I don't hear from the day. When I stop with man. You're the crow, yam young qua. Say, I'm a fair and quiet, you crony young qua.
This led to so many agitations, which could have led to demonstrations and anarchies. And as I sit here, I tried my possible best as Omahin to avert most of them by appealing to the people who wanted to demonstrate and explain issues to them.
Every passing month increases mistrust towards traditional leadership. Chiefs say they are now carrying the burden of defending a process that only Parliament can unlock, and some residents no longer believe explanations from the palace.
It is making some of us like, let me use the word, like we are liars. We are not telling them the truth. Because we go to meeting, we come and tell them that things are on course and they see nothing. Please, use your good office and try your possible best and have this project ratified for us.
The chiefs can only hold back anger for so long. And if Parliament continues delaying the ratification, traditional leaders may soon struggle to calm residents who feel their future has been put on pause without explanation.
I saw a problem yesterday, because I didn't want you to me not to pay for about one more come out as zero. I abandoned the mobile animal. So show you my EP or my kata. That's how made in one side, no one here. No more to clean away. Watch me, you, and I cut was I. I'll come out the you know about cat and over far away.
During the 2024 general election campaign, many residents say they listened carefully when the then candidate John Dramani Mahama visited the Central Regional House of Chiefs and promised swift attention to the lithium mining lease if elected. Chiefs in this enclave say they repeated the assurance to the people and it now contributes to the pressure they are facing. Osajefo Akufo-Addo VI is the paramount chief of Mankasim traditional area.
I was so happy about the answer you gave. Your answer had two parts. The first part was that, as at that time, the party in power had the majority. So if they want to approve it, they could.
Nana Mankasim, it can't be true that the opposition is against the lithium project, because why do they call us the minority? We don't have the numbers. They are more. There are 138 of them. And so how can we stop anything? If they want to pass it, they'll pass it because they have the numbers.
The turntable has turned. your party, NDC, is in power. So if they want to approve it, they can. And I know for sure that because Cabinet has approved it, it means it's a deal. You also made a very valuable statement, and I learned a lot from it. You made me hear for the first time the word stranded assets. It came from you, Your Excellency. I will urge you, if your people can play that address, the response to my question when you came to the Regional House of Chiefs.
Research is going on, and new sources for these electric vehicles are being discovered beyond lithium. Recently, the Japanese have discovered some other way of creating these electric vehicles that don't use lithium. And so as these inventions are coming, right now lithium is the favorite choice for batteries for electric vehicles. But if we don't mine it quickly, a time will come they'll discover something else, and the value of lithium will go down. It has already come down with some of the new inventions that are being announced. So if we have this resource, the better we mine it as quickly as possible and take advantage of it. Otherwise, if time passes by, we have what we call stranded assets. You have an asset, but it's stranded. There's no longer any need for it. And so I think that is something, this is a national cause. If that revenue comes, it's going to come to help the whole nation, not only Mankesem. So it's something that all of us must support. And Nana, me and you are on the same wavelength. We'll work together to make sure that this thing goes forward.
So the aspect of the majority and the aspect of the stranded assets, they've all turned in your favor. Do something now.
For now, chiefs will continue to ask residents to remain patient, but they admit the pressure is rising, and without parliamentary action, the possibility of demonstrations and civil unrest will become harder to prevent. Emmanuel Jivenu, Joy News, Central Region.
And meanwhile, the National Anti-Illegal Mining Operations Secretariat deployed a specialized team into Samraboy in the Amenfi West Municipality as part of its sustained nationwide offensive against illegal mining. The officers secured and dismantled 3 pumping machines and recovered 1 active control board used for coordinating washing operations. And the media relations officer of the Ministry of Lands and Natural Resources, Pakwesi Shandov, is joining us in the studio for a conversation on the back of this. Pakwesi, welcome once again. You were on our morning show earlier. Tell us a bit about this operation.
Comment briefly on what we all watched, the germane concerns from the people of Ewoya. Indeed, government is working assiduously around the clock to ensure that the narrative is changed. What we are putting forward now is a sliding scale mechanism that would benefit the interest of the investor as well as the people. I think I've exhausted that. I'd already exhausted that earlier, and so we can move away from that. But just to put on record that government is not sleeping on its initial promise, and the stranded assets very soon will become very fluid assets that will benefit everybody. On the recent NIMOS operation, NIMOS on any given day, when a week starts, has an outline of operations that it embarks on, basically with the intent of ensuring that the menace of illegal mining is permanently dealt with. This particular operation is part of many. In fact, of course, I've always said that because the operations are intelligence-led, we can't disclose the next location. Right. But even as I speak to you now, I have word that NIMOS is embarking on another venture. What we intend to do, Kenneth, moving forward is that we have heard a criticism, how that all the time NIMOS is effecting arrest, but there are no attendant prosecutions and all of that. And then so it is beginning for some critics, the arrests are beginning to look a bit cosmetic because they think that you effect the arrest, but there are no attendant prosecutions. what we're going to roll on board effectively from January next year, God willing, is the specialized tribunals that will deal with specific illegal mining offenses. So, for example, in this particular operation, yes, the Chinese were arrested, some local folks were equally apprehended. There has to be a system that would expeditiously ensure that they are prosecuted, and that is what we are working on. Then again, just to respond to the concerns from the critics, how that NIMOS is always embarking on operations and they don't see any meaningful outcome. We want to station military personnel at each of the flashpoints in the country so that we don't have a situation where NIMOS is moving to and fro. And so effective next year, the policy proposition has already been extensively discussed and approved. The financial clearance that will give effect to it has also been done accordingly. So from next year, you're going to see a permanent deployment to all the flashpoints, and that will be part of the measures to deal with the menace.
I was eventually going to ask you that question, though, but I'm glad you brought it up yourself. The Deputy Lands and Natural Resources Minister, when I spoke to him a couple of months ago, did indicate that they are struggling to prosecute them and all that. And he even said that he doesn't know their whereabouts. Do you know the whereabouts of the people who have been arrested?
I cannot speak to that reference point, that conversation involving the Deputy Lands Minister. But for everybody who has ever been arrested by the NIMOS task force, there is a docket that has accordingly been prepared for all of them. A good number of them are still currently, in police custody. Of course, you cannot detain people, suspects beyond a particular period. So what they do is that they report to the various police stations as and when. But the prosecutions are at various levels of completion. I need to admit and I need to indicate the justice delivery system in our parts of the world, we can all agree, is typically slow and sometimes a bit cumbersome. And that is why we want to now cut out the tribunals out of the broader justice dispensation system so that we deal with illegal mining exclusively. So it's just a matter of time. Anybody who has been arrested, as of now, I think per the last record that I updated myself on, I think we have about over 1,500 individuals who have been arrested so far. Of course, some of them have been discharged simply because upon further probing and scrutiny, we realized that they were not maybe illegal miners in the first place. Maybe we come to a community and then we arrest 50 people. You would later observe that some of them were only at the scene, and then upon investigation, you realize that they are not illegal miners. But those who have been named and tagged and pinned as illegal miners are in excess of some 1,500. By mid next year, we should dispense the prosecution, and then we should have meaningful results.
And those who have been let go, how many of them are foreigners?
Those who, when you say let go?
Those who you realized were arrested, amongst the lot, right, and you later found out that they were not illegal miners.
I would have to check and give you that updates. But nobody is going to be left off the hook. That is the assurance. Indeed, if we had plans of maybe hiding the data away or conducting ourselves in a manner that is questionable, we would not be putting out the total number of arrests that we have effected. So I'm saying now that we have arrested in excess of 1,500 illegal miners. So you have that record. At any given time, if you want to now ask us about the prosecutions, that can be the reference. So if today we say that we have prosecuted only 2, then clearly the remaining 1,498 will be up for questioning. Okay, so it makes the process very transparent, but all of them will be prosecuted.
I asked about the foreigners because there's been a lot of concern from the public about, government's position on deporting foreigners who are arrested for engaging in illegal mining. Is that a position that the government still holds, that foreigners, especially Chinese, who are, largely involved in this, when they are caught, they'll still be deported, or they are going to be part of the people who will face the law when you say the tribunals that are being set up, especially to fast track the, the sentencing or otherwise of illegal miners who are caught? Is government still of the position that you deport illegal miners who are foreigners?
Well, first of all, that has not been the collective and comprehensive position of government in the first place. Yes, it did come out, but that has not been had not been and is still not the decided stance of government. When it comes to prosecution, regardless of your status or your profile, whether you are Ghanaian or you are non-Ghanaian, if you break Ghanaian laws, you're going to be dealt with decisively according to what the law also prescribes. And the Minister Honorable Emmanuel Lamakofibo has had cause to indicate that there is no special dispensation or unique treatment that is going to be meted to foreigners simply because they are not from our jurisdiction. And so that answers the question. When we get to the effective stages of prosecution, anybody who has ever offended any of our mining laws, whether the fellow is a Ghanaian, the fellow is a Burkinabe, the fellow is a Togolese, whatever the nationality of the person is, you would face Ghanaian laws accordingly.
So you were saying that that is not the official position of government to deport Chinese
there is some clemency
illegal miners?
Absolutely. That is not the official position of government, that you give some level of clemency or pardon or consideration or whatever it is to, those who are foreigners, Chinese. No, that's not the official position of government whatsoever. Absolutely not. That is not official.
Not long ago, we heard some individuals involved in accidents. Some of them unfortunately lost their lives. Those who survived, what is their state of health?
Well, yeah, I'm happy this conversation is coming up. And so I'm sure you're referring to the 9-month operation at Obuasi.
Yes.
It's only one individual, unfortunately, whom we lost. The remaining 4, we later communicated that they had stabilized, and as of now, they have all been discharged. They are all fit and sound now. The gentleman who lost his life, the name is not readily coming to mind, but the minister, of course, paid homage to the family, met the entirety of the man's kinsmen, and arrangements are in that regard to ensure that he's given a respectable rest. But we did indicate that the cause of that investigation was an item, the cause of that accident was an item for concern. The minister subsequently commissioned an investigation into it. I'm sure, hopefully, by the close of this week, we'll have full updates on the outcome of that investigation. Because since 9 months began operations, there has never been any development of that nature. And there have been concerns about the safety of the people on the front line. How come young men devote themselves to fight illegal mining? Then there is the news that there is an accident that has occurred. We need to tackle that. We need to ensure that those who are putting their lives on the line are not disadvantaged. Hence the essence of that investigation, and we'll communicate the outcomes very soon.
Pakwesi Shandov, thank you very much. He's the Media Relations Officer at the Ministry of Lands and Natural Resources. When we return from the break, we will bring you the latest in business. Don't go anywhere.
Yeah, welcome back. It's time for business. I am Michelle Ejukum. Now to our stories. The Driver and Vehicle Licensing Authority, DVLA, is targeting complete registration of both new and old vehicles under its number plate system by December 2027. The 2-year registration exercise is expected to see the over 4 million registered vehicles in the country re-registered under the new system as the authority sets out to introduce the new technology-based number plates beginning January 1, 2026. Although the new system is expected to enhance security surveillance and enforcement of traffic regulations, some motorists are suggesting more improvements on the system for effective rollout. There's more in this report.
The newly commissioned Ebuakwa and Bonre service centers, constructed through public-private partnership arrangements, are expected to significantly reduce long travel times for residents who previously had to commute to central Kumasi for routine licensing activities. DVLA officials say the facilities will improve efficiency, streamline service delivery, and support the authority's broader agenda of ensuring accessibility for all road users. Regional managers explained that the new offices reflect DVLA's commitment to upholding professional standards while expanding its reach. They emphasized the importance of private partnerships in providing modern facilities and notes that communities within the Ebuakwa and Bonre enclaves will no longer bear the stress of traveling long distances for essential services.
The authority has decided to, as a matter of strategy, to make its services accessible to the general public. And so this is one of the ways the authority is using to come into private partnership with some individuals, citizens of this country, to make provision for offices that will help open up the services that the authority offers to the public.
Ashanti Regional DVLA Manager Jerry Afablo said the authority is committed to maintaining high professional standards while ensuring that licensing processes are easy, accessible, and effective for all road users.
If it has to take you 100 cities to come to Kumasi office to renew your license for 81 cities, then you realize that it's not motivating. It doesn't make sense. So the authority has identified these gaps and is trying to bridge this gap by coming into partnership, so that we can open up more offices, make them closer and accessible to the general public, so that they can access the genuine service from the authority.
Mr. Aflabo added that DVLA CBT test comes in various languages to encourage potential drivers not to shy away from the professional examination by DVLA to get their authorized driver's license.
The CBT test has been translated in various Ghanaian languages, where Asante, Ghana, and some other languages, about 5. We are doing this just to make it easy for people not to be afraid of the exam, the CBT test. So you come, you select the language you want to use, you put the headphone on, you play, and then it mentions the question, it reads the question, and then the possible answers, and then you just choose. So we are doing this to encourage participation, so that people would shy away from patronizing the unauthorized places of getting driver's license. So we believe that when we do this in collaboration with the other road safety stakeholders, we will be able to try and minimize the incident of accident on our road.
For Joy News, Jude Fiatbe.
And that'll be it for business. I am Michelle Ejikum. There's more when you log on to myjoyonline.com. Ken.
Well, thank you very much, Michelle. That's how we wrap up this morning's edition of Joy News Desk. My name is Kenneth Jesse. The news team returns at midday with Joy News Today. Have a good morning.